Hey everyone, welcome back. We're on Carmarthen Velodrome tonight. This was filmed on Monday, so I've put together a little kind of what went on video. It was kind of, so last week I made a video from the sidelines because I was unable to ride due to we can only have 20 riders on the track at the time. So I did a little video. I'll link that somewhere around here, so you can watch that if you'd like. So from a rider's perspective, this is the video you want to watch. So I go through what we did, the drills, the actual sessions that we did, and you know, what it was like on the new surface, because it was newly refurbished. You know, this was my first time on it, so I didn't know how it was gonna ride, how fast it was gonna feel. And of course, being that it's outdoors, it's free to the elements. So this evening, obviously, it was very, very wet. So because of the new surface, there was lots of sand and like grit and stuff coming off, which you know, was fine if you were wearing specs. But you know, I remember, as soon as I finished, I got straight in the shower in the rugby changing rooms, and just pretty much could have done with showering with my kit on, to be honest. It was that bad. So so it was a very messy session, but really good fun nonetheless. So yeah, let's talk about what happened really. So the first like 20 minutes of riding on this track, you know, we all got together on the blue line, as you can see, which is kind of like the midpoint of the track, or maybe say the 40% point on the track, being that 100% would be, let's say, the very top at the top of the banking. This track is not very steep on its banking, and the straights are very long. So you know, you get the picture by watching these images as to how long each lap is. So yeah, we're running on the blue line, all of us in a group, and this is our warm-up or first endurance block. So riding along, we're doing half lap changes. So as you can see here, we're coming up to the banking. The guy or girl obviously comes off, swings up high, stays there for a while. And I don't know if you noticed, but on the top of the banking, I'll talk more about this later, but there's a star, which we use to, and there's one there as well, but that's kind of got no significance to us. But the one that we use is at the top of the banking. We use that when we were doing our team pursuit sessions. We aim for that when we're swinging up the banking, to give us an indication of, you know, where to kind of swing up and where to swing down. So we were barreling along now in a good pace. I think it was around 22 mile an hour, or around 36k an hour in American or whatever kind of format you work off. So we did this, and you know, we had a kind of a bit of a mix up at the end. You know, we give it the beans, see who can you know, it's like a progressive warm-up, so to speak. So that gets cylinders firing. This little group that we're coming up to here on the left, they were kind of the beginner group, or the group who you know, maybe were new to the track and they'd never ridden it before, so they stayed down on the black line. It makes it a lot easier for them, and obviously they got slightly less distance to ride as well. So that was the start. Alright, so the next kind of, I guess, drill that we did after a little bit of a break was another endurance block. I guess it was 25 minutes, I think we did. So 25 minutes of just general kind of team pursuit stuff. So this was split into three groups. You'd have, again, the beginner group at the bottom on the black line. You'd have a kind of an intermediate group in the blue line, and then to make it even harder, again, you'd have the advanced group, or the, you know, the kind of the stronger guys right at the top, right on the fence. So as you can see from where we are riding here, I think there was 3 or 4 of us in this group: me, Anthony, Nige, Pitt, and Dan. and you know, eventually it got whittled down, well, to just me. But unfortunately, you know, it was grippy out there, it was grim, the wind made it really hard. So you know, fair play to the guys, they did really well. Like, everybody did really well in the team pursuit efforts, and it's never easy, especially in the weather. So this, you know, this effort in itself, I know the general rule that we follow, I'm no expert on track racing or track riding or anything, but it's kind of almost self-explanatory, common sense. But the strongest rider in the group will do longer turns, so you know, you do that out on the road anyway. But you know, so I was doing anywhere from a lap to a lap and a half turns, and you know, keeping the pace kind of very, very similar to what the other guys were doing. I didn't want to take it up too high in case, well, in case I was on my own, which that was the case at the end, but there was nothing I could do about that. But the actual effort itself, the first 20 minutes that we did stay together, we averaged around 37 kilometers an hour, and 250 watts was my average. Now obviously that's not normalized, but that was my average power. And yeah, we were cruising, we really were cruising. And you know, the rain thankfully eased off for this, it made it a lot easier. But because we were at the banking, and this is what we were told by John, the coach, is that because we were at the top of the banking, changing was a lot harder. So Anthony's in front of me here. When he swings off maybe a foot to his right, so he hasn't got very far to go because he's already right up the banking. So he swings off up to the fence. I come under him, and so here we go. I come under him, and then because he doesn't have the bank to help him get on, it does make it a little bit difficult. So you've got to put a bit of a more effort in to get on the back, and because there was only 3 of us, you had very little rest anyway between each turn. So obviously it didn't help me putting the hammer down at some point, so I shouldn't have. But you know, the one thing that you realise from riding on the track is that there's a lot of dead spots. So there's a group that we just passed there on the left, and this is something really, really interesting that I picked up on. And like I said, I'm no expert on the track, but what I am an expert on is riding on the road and knowing, you know, where you do lose power, where you gain power, where you can press on, where you can kind of ease off without losing speed, and making the most of riding with your power meter. Now, we were all on geared bikes. That's another thing to make perfectly clear here. We haven't made the change to fixed gear bikes because you know, a lot of people haven't even had the privilege of riding a fixed gear bike yet. So it's kind of like, you know, let's not run before you can walk type thing. So we're all on geared bikes, and it still made for a really fun session. Okay, so here's the thing. This group on the left here, they were made up of 5 or 6 riders. They were obviously the intermediate group, so they're kind of just as fit as us. You know, me and Anthony there, there's just the 2 of us now pulling turns. But the challenge the coach set us now was that group below us had to hold us there. And they had to stay kind of alongside us the whole way. And you know, you'd expect that we just, you know, pull away from them and it would be easy, but that's not the case. You know, we weren't going like completely flat out. It was just a controlled effort. I obviously had to look after Anthony. He's just finished working like in night shifts in the steelworks, so you've got to look after your own. So I had to look after him, and the group, like, surprisingly kept us there, and they kept us there the whole time. And if you watch very carefully, like, they come back into frame every now and then, every time we go up the banking and every time we come over the top, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And they always disappear when we're coming down the other side, off the other side of the banking, and we're coming along this straight. And it's not purely because we're going on more of a kind of more of a downhill than them, although that has, you know, to some extent a part to play. But the biggest difference is, you know, I ride the power all the time, and I also have been riding a fixed gear road bike for a lot of the winter so far. But I say winter, I mean off season, because you know, it's easy to maintain and blah blah blah. But coming off the banking, you know, say if I was riding 300 watts, we're coming down the other side, it's ever so slightly different gradient change, but you can feel it, you know. So I keep on that 300 watts without even realizing it. You know, you get to a certain point in your career, you've always been riding 300 watts, you'll ride 300 watts if it's uphill, downhill, or anywhere. So, you know, I just kept riding at it, and that's where it pull away, you know. And it's something that I like to do it quite a bit, where I look at other people's Strava rides, I look at my ride, and I like to compare, well, how did I make up time to this person? Or how did I lose time to this person? So the group has come back now. It's because Anthony had dropped off the pace, and I just sat up and I thought, you know what, I'll just ride with this group now because it's a lot more fun with them as opposed to just being on my own. But as soon as I got in the group with them, I could feel it straight away. So they'd not ride hard, but you could feel the pressure on the pedals coming round the banking, and then you could feel that you're almost freewheeling when you were coming around this section here and back down. Now, like I said, although it's slightly downhill, you should still be keeping the pressure on. I mean, if you were on fixed gear, you'd know if you weren't keeping the pressure on, because your legs would start to feel like there was a dead spot there. And that's the benefit of riding a fixed gear. So after a while, we got moved from the top to the blue line, and we formed a little team pursuit team of Nige Pitt, who's in front of me there, who's just completed, well, it was a few months ago now, the Edinburgh-London Audax, which is around 1300k or something, in about 3 days or something. You got to complete it in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd love to do that one day. So Nigel's just pulled off, and Dan was with us, and also Anthony was in our group as well, and we were doing our team pursuit stuff. So I was holding the black line, changing high in the banking, almost completely freewheeling, and I come back down and I realised none of them were with me, and all of a sudden Brad was there. Brad wasn't even in our group. Brad had come out of nowhere, and we come past the start-finish line, and John tells us to go over the top of the group that we just caught, which happens to be the beginner group. And as we come over the top, it's important that we shout or we communicate to them to tell them, look, we're coming over the top, don't swing up. But at the same time, you know, they should be looking as well. You know, that's their job, to look over their shoulder, their right shoulder, to make sure nobody comes over the top. So Brad's just swung off now. He obviously realizes that he's in the deep end, and although when he swung off, I wanted him to stay with me. You know, I enjoy that. I enjoy encouraging people, and I was wanting him to come back on and hold on to me. So I waited and waited. I'm still waiting here. Then John shouts 5 laps to go, and he also shouted at me then to go because I was on my own. So he told me to do the last 5 laps then and see if I could lap Brad, or more to the point, catch Brad up. So I had 5 laps to take 45 seconds out of Brad. So I started giving it the beans, and I was really surprised. This is something that, you know, this is an effort that is completely alien to me now. I mean, obviously I did hill climbs a while back, but that was going on for 4 weeks ago now. And you know, that effort I haven't done in a long time, so I didn't know how I'd go. So I did start off fairly hard, and I thought, I don't think this is sustainable, but I'm going to give it a go. The interesting thing is my legs didn't hurt at all during this effort now. What hurt was my lungs, my heart, my breathing, you know, my arms. It was all very strange feeling. This is the kind of feeling that people get when they don't ride their bike very often, and they go out for a spin and they smash it up a hill against their friends. That is the feeling of freshness, the feeling of fatigue that 99.9% of professionals get, or anybody that rides a bike almost every day of their lives. You're almost always fatigued. You know, that's the feeling you get. So this freshness feeling that we get as professionals is extremely weird to our bodies, because we, you know, it's almost like we never even get to that point. Even the hill climbs, when I was fairly kind of fatigued coming into them, it's still like you finish the hill climb, you get to the top, you're panting, you're out of breath, like there's lactate, there's pain, there's all these sorts of things, but you're not actually hurting, you're not actually at your very limit, and that's because you are still slightly fatigued. You know, in this effort here now that you're seeing, it was a purely fresh effort, but I wasn't completely blowing. It was more of a controlled effort. There's Brad, just caught Brad, and then I realised, of course, that Brad wasn't the guy that I should be catching. It should be Dan. So Dan is just in front of me. Unfortunately, because I'm so tucked down, it's almost like you can't see it. So here's no wait, this isn't. Yeah, it is Dan. This is Dan. So I've caught Dan now for a lap. So I took a lap, but it took me 4 minutes, and that 4 minutes was over 400 watts. So I was pretty chuffed with that. So this was one of the last kind of team drills that we had for the evening, the last endurance block, and as you can see, we're riding on the blue line here in our team pursuit team. The whistle blows and we dive down to the black line, and we go as hard as we can as a team for as long as it takes, really, to catch the group that we've just left. So we're all riding on the blue line, and all the riders who are on the track, they're all riding the blue line in one line, but you line up in your group formation. So there was me, Anthony, and Nigel again. So we're riding in our group formation. The whistle blows. We dive down to the black line. We give it the beans for however long it takes us to get back to that group. So when we join onto the back of that group, we immediately slot back onto the blue line again, and we rest for however long it takes for us to get back up to the pecking order. So obviously the next team, the whistle blows, they dive down, and they might be in front of us, but then there's another team in front of us waiting their turn, and then they get the whistle blown at them, and then they dive down. It's a really good way of mixing it up, because you get different rest durations, you also get different durations of intensity. So, you know, it depends on how slow people want to ride on the blue line. If you ride really slow on the blue line, it'll take you less time to catch that group up when you come round. But also, if you're riding at 25 mile an hour on the blue line, it's going to take them forever to catch up. So it's a really good fun way of mixing up, and I'm sure you could do it on a small chain gang circuit. If you had an ideal circuit near you for a road chain gang circuit, it would probably work as well. So this was the last block of training on the track we had tonight. The rain had stopped, it was the calm before the storm, and the basic principle of this was find a friend, or find an enemy, as I've now renamed it, because people hate you after this. So as you can see, we're all spread out on the track. I mean, I've left a pretty big gap there, but it's a fair way to the next rider. The idea is John blows the whistle, and whoever he's named, they've got to start sprinting. They obviously jump from the blue line to the black line. Oh, exactly on cue. The whistle was blown for me. I dived to the black line and giving it a good blast. Obviously that sat down for the banking. Safety tip, do not go to the saddle on a banking, especially when it's wet. Then driving it home on the home straight. And now the idea is that you, obviously you can't see it because the camera's angled down, but you can see my shadow, veering off the black line slightly and onto the blue line. Now, I decide where I pull up, where my effort ends, and where the next person's effort begins. So if I've got, there's Tim, I wanted Tim to go next, so I find Tim and I smash it and I pull up in front of him and into the gap that he's left between him and the rider in front. Now, you can go for as long or as hard as you want to go. Tim, being the man that he is, swung up literally into the next guy's path. So he only went for 100 yards and he was like, right, I've had enough of this. I'm swinging up and the next guy can go. John, being very, very nasty to me this evening, giving me another effort to do. I'd only had half a lap rest, so I had to do another one. Now, obviously, I can go for even longer if I wanted to, or I can go for an even shorter one, just like Tim. I decided to go for a slightly longer one this time and do just over half a lap to a lap, and I swing up and find another guy to set off, and you know, they can get on their way and do their effort. So it's a very kind of it's a very dynamic ending to the session. It's mixing it up entirely. You can have a bit of fun with it because you know a lot of people will be a target. Tim is a massive target for everybody because the amount of lip that he gives. But it's all friendly, it's all good fun, and it was well worth it. Again, it was a smashing night at Carmarthen Velodrome. It was just such a great showing from all of us, actually, especially the ones who didn't want to be there because it was raining and it was mucky and it was, you know, it wasn't really the ideal night. But again, we turned up, we gave it a go, and it was lovely and it was great to ride it, and we all really enjoyed. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to leave a comment, you know where to leave it, and as always, I'll be reading them. So see you next time.